Welcome back to the channel. And if you are just joining us, make sure you hit that subscribe button because today we are covering a story that has absolutely broken the internet. I am talking trending worldwide, memes flooding every platform, constitutional scholars weighing in, and political commentators on both sides losing their minds. The headline sounds almost unbelievable. Reports are circulating that Donald Trump has been dropping hints about remaining involved in presidential politics beyond 2028, possibly even suggesting a role in 2029. Now, before you click away thinking this is clickbait, stick with me because the constitutional implications, the political chaos, and the reactions are absolutely wild. Let's break down what's actually being said, what's legally possible, and why the internet is melting down over this. First, let's establish what we're actually dealing with here. According to various reports and social media clips that have gone viral, Trump has allegedly made several cryptic comments at recent events that have people speculating about his future role in American politics past his current term. Now, the 22nd Amendment to the Constitution is crystal clear. No person shall be elected to the office of the president more than twice. Trump is currently in his second term, which means he cannot be elected president again in 2028. That's settled, constitutional law that's been in place since 1951. So what's the controversy? Well, Trump has reportedly been making comments that some interpret as suggesting alternative pathways to executive power. These range from jokes about we'll see what happens to more specific comments about lots of ways to serve the country and references to how other democratic nations handle executive transitions. Some clips show him talking about advisory roles, special positions, or even constitutional amendments. Other moments seem more like Trump being Trump, keeping people guessing, staying in the headlines, and enjoying the speculation that swirls around him. The key question everyone's asking, is he serious? Is he joking? Or is he just doing what he does best, dominating the news cycle and keeping everyone talking about him? Let's get serious for a moment and talk about what is and isn't actually possible under American constitutional law. This is important because a lot of the online discourse is running wild with scenarios that simply cannot happen under our current system. The 22nd Amendment prevents Trump from being elected president a third time, period. That's non-negotiable unless the amendment itself is repealed, which would require a two-thirds vote in both houses of Congress and ratification by 3/4 of state legislatures, an extraordinarily high bar. That's not happening in today's political environment. Could Trump serve as vice president and then assume the presidency if something happened to the sitting president? This is constitutionally murky. The 12th Amendment says no person constitutionally ineligible to be president can be vice president, and many legal scholars argue the 22nd Amendment makes Trump ineligible. However, some constitutional lawyers have pointed out that the 22nd Amendment specifically restricts being elected to the office, not serving in it through succession. Could Trump serve in a cabinet position or as an appointed official? There's nothing preventing a former two-term president from serving as Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, or even Speaker of the House if they won a congressional seat. In fact, former President John Quincy Adams served in the House of Representatives after his presidency. Some have even speculated about more creative scenarios, like serving as a sort of prime minister role if governmental structures were fundamentally reorganized. But that would require constitutional changes so massive that it's essentially fantasy. This isn't the first time we've seen speculation about presidents trying to extend their influence or even their time in office. Let's look at some historical context. Franklin D. Roosevelt actually did serve more than 2 terms. He was elected 4 times and died in office during his 4th term. It was FDR's unprecedented 4-term presidency that led directly to the passage of the 22nd Amendment. The American system was designed with a deep suspicion of concentrated power, and the 2-term limit reflects that founding principle. After leaving office, some presidents have remained politically active. Theodore Roosevelt famously tried to return to the presidency in 1912, running as a third-party candidate after leaving office in 1909. He didn't win, but he split the Republican vote and changed American politics. More recently, there's been speculation about various presidents staying involved. People wondered if Bill Clinton might seek high office again through appointed positions. Obama has remained an influential voice in Democratic politics, but none have seriously pursued or suggested a return to the presidency itself after serving 2 terms. What makes the current situation unique is Trump's particular political brand. He's never been a traditional politician. He maintains an intensely loyal base, and he's shown a willingness to challenge political norms in ways that previous presidents haven't. Now let's talk about why this story has exploded across social media platforms. The reactions fall into several distinct categories, and they reveal a lot about our current political moment. Let's ground ourselves in reality for a moment. What could Trump actually do politically after his current term ends in January 2029? The most obvious path is becoming a kingmaker. Even without holding office, Trump could remain the most influential figure in Republican politics, endorsing candidates, shaping the party platform, and essentially determining who becomes the 2028 nominee. This is powerful and doesn't require any constitutional creativity. He could pursue media ventures. Trump has always been a media figure in a post-presidency media empire. Whether traditional broadcasting, social media platforms, or new forms of political communication could give him enormous influence without holding office, he could accept an appointed position in a future Republican administration. If the 2028 Republican nominee wins, they might offer Trump a cabinet position or special envoy role. This would be unprecedented for a former two-term president, but it's not unconstitutional. He could run for other offices. Trump could theoretically run for Congress, become a senator from Florida, or pursue other elected positions. While unusual for a former president, it's legally permissible. He could also simply remain active in politics through rallies, endorsements, fundraising, and public appearances. Essentially what many former presidents do, but amplified by Trump's particular brand of politics. What he cannot do is be elected president again in 2028 or 2032 or any future election. That ship has sailed constitutionally. And this whole episode, whether Trump was serious, joking, or just floating ideas, raises important questions about American democracy and political norms. First, it highlights how personality-driven American politics has become. The fact that we're even having this conversation shows how much modern politics revolves around individual figures rather than parties, platforms, or institutions. Second, it demonstrates the fragility of norms. Constitutional law provides hard boundaries, but a lot of American democracy has historically relied on unwritten norms, expectations about how politicians will behave, that aren't legally mandated. When those norms are challenged, we're forced to confront whether our legal framework is sufficient. Third, it reveals deep divisions in how Americans view democratic institutions. Some see term limits as essential guardrails against authoritarianism. Others view them as artificial restrictions that prevent the people from choosing who they want. These competing visions of democracy create the space for this kind of speculation. Fourth, this shows the power of ambiguity in modern politics. By making vague or cryptic statements, political figures can generate enormous attention, energize supporters, and dominate news cycles without committing to anything specific. It's a communication strategy that's particularly effective in our current media environment. So where does this leave us? Here's what to watch for in the coming months, both of which serve his interests. But it's worth paying attention to because how we respond to these moments, with panic, with humor, with constitutional analysis, or with indifference, tells us something about ourselves. What do you think? Is this a real threat to democratic norms, or just Trump being Trump? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you made it this far, hit that like button and subscribe because we'll be following this story as it develops. Thanks for watching.